In this presentation, we're going to investigate templatizing servers with AMIs. First off, remember that instance types are the hardware footprint. Over here, we have base hardware that is on the machine, such as CPU, RAM, network card, and disk. The VM sits above the hypervisor, and the hypervisor's job is to parse out a smaller amount of the CPU, RAM, network, and disk to the VM. So instance types define a hardware footprint. AMIs, or Amazon Machine Images, define a software footprint. This is basically an OS, such as Linux or Windows, along with packages such as PHP, Apache, Python, and so forth, plus possibly user software, which could be the user's code, daemons, and so forth. There are base AMIs that you're going to use to launch your first server. You're typically going to want to use an AWS-provided AMI. We used the Linux AMI 2013-03 in our first lab. This is going to define a raw Linux or Windows operating system. You can consider these trusted since Amazon reviews and is very careful about what they put in them. There are also 64-bit and 32-bit options. Most are 64, but some are both 64 and 32. There are also community AMIs, which you can launch through the Community AMIs tab when you're spinning up an instance. Anyone can provide these, so be very careful where you get them from. There's also the AWS Marketplace, which provides pre-packaged appliances such as load balancers, databases, and so forth. The amount of trust you want to give to these depends on how much you trust the source itself. If it's McAfee, maybe, but this MX Hero, I've never heard of them. They may have additional costs. Here you can see that if you spin up this AMI, you're going to be charged from McAfee $35 per license per year. Be careful with these. There's also My AMIs. You can burn your own from running servers. Let's look at that a bit closer. When you're creating AMIs, the first consideration is what to include. You're going to fall somewhere along what we call a configuration continuum. At one end of the continuum, you have the OS only. This is basically the same as the base AMI from Amazon. Here in the middle, we've additionally installed Apache and PHP, or some foundational packages, into this EC2 instance. And over here on the far right, we have all the above, plus potentially some of your code. These are what are known as base, partially configured, and fully configured AMIs. You can burn any of these to an AMI. When you're creating an AMI, the AMI is actually stored in S3. It is secure by default. No one can see these AMIs unless you make them community. You have to take additional steps for anyone to see your AMI. There are generally minor storage costs associated with this as well, but something to be aware of if you plan on burning a lot of them. A single AMI can be used to make many instances. Here we're using this AMI to spin up 1, 2, or maybe even 100 different instances. And I can even spin up instances of different types, such as a micro, small, or M3 large. This has been Templatizing Servers with AMIs, and you should have a good picture of all these things at the moment.